I like pretty frequently get comments like this on my videos of me like literally having any object that is not from like the thrift store or like made myself or whatever. This is from TikTok shop, you get it. And this is absolutely no hate to this person because they did seem to be like trying to be genuine and everything, so like this is not like anger towards you, okay? But yes, there are some alternative subcultures that are anti-fast fashion, etc. Emo is not one of them, and I feel like it, like the TikTokification of emo has like made it into that. I've talked about this before, but it's like all of the alternative subcultures are like people are trying to smush them into one box and like, I don't know, kind of like call people posers and like this and that and like say you have to do this thing to be a part of this subculture. It's like weirdly gatekeepy and also weirdly like it has like a lack of knowledge about like the different subcultures as well at the same time. I get a lot of people also saying like, well, emotional hardcore was the start of emo and that stems from punk, which is true, but not in the way of like values. Like not every single alternative subculture, you know, like has like punk values basically. A lot of them do like have roots in punk, but they don't all stay the exact same, you know what I mean? I'll read you this little blurb that's, you know, says like the history of emo. So emo, or emotional hardcore, grew out of the Washington DC hardcore punk scene in the mid 1980s. Hardcore was very political and aggressive. Bands like Minor Threat and Bad Brains were focused on social issues, personal responsibility, and often straight-edge ideals. But some musicians began shifting away from political slogans and collective anger towards personal expression and vulnerability. Bands like Rites of Spring and Embrace are often cited as the first emo groups. They still played with hardcore intensity, but their lyrics weren't about government or society. They were about heartbreak, alienation, self-reflection, and raw emotional experience. They wanted to explore inner feelings in a scene that usually avoided or even mocked that kind of vulnerability. Whereas punk had been about protest and resistance, emo turned inward. Instead of screaming at institutions, it screamed about the self. For many, it was liberating to see hardcore stripped of its political obligations and used to process personal pain. That's why emo is sometimes called emotional hardcore. It wasn't just a sound, but a way of saying our feelings matter too. By the time emo broke into the mainstream in the late 1990s and especially the 2000s, it had become more than just underground music. It was a visible youth subculture. And youth subcultures always develop style markers. For emo kids, that meant skinny jeans, band tees, striped arm warmers, studded belts, hair dye, Converse, Vans, etc. Hot Topic became the default retailer for teens who didn't live near thrift shops or couldn't DIY everything. It was accessible and affordable, and for a lot of kids, it was their first way of visually becoming emo. Buying a My Chemical Romance or Fall Out Boy shirt at Hot Topic wasn't about selling out, it was about belonging. Emo was not a political uniform by the 2000s. It was a way for kids to express their inner lives and build community. Whether you bought mass-produced studded belt or cut one out of an old seatbelt didn't change the fact that you were showing the world who you were. Basically, yeah, they didn't give a shit. You know, like, yes, some alternative subcultures do care about those kinds of things. Sure, punk, whatever. I'm not really, like, well-versed in, like, you know, the ones that are that into it. Some people say goth. I can't have an opinion on that because I'm not goth, you know what I mean? I just feel like they're all, like, every alternative subculture is, like, being TikTokified and, like, pushed into one category, and that's, like, no, guys. And also, before I get the people who are like, it's not about being emo, it's about being a good person, first of all, I'm specifically addressing when people say you can't be emo and buy fast fashion. Second of all, I don't think it makes you a bad person to buy fast fashion, because literally everything is fast fashion. Like, if I'm not, like, you know, just, like, finding my materials, like, on the sidewalk and making stuff, you know what I mean? I think of it as the same thing, like a similar thing, like, you know, not buying fast fashion. I think of it similarly to being vegan. And there are some people who will say, like, you're evil if you're not vegan, okay? But there are a lot of people who aren't vegan and aren't evil, you know? I think a lot of people can buy fast fashion within reason. I think if you're buying a ton of it and throwing it out, yeah, that's bad. But if you're buying it to use it, I don't see a problem with it. You know what I mean? I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's just, like, it's all performative and people are, like, to talk about that shit, you know what I mean?